What's that?
The floor is yours.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Y'all shouldn't be so excited. So my name's Jonathan Depew. I'm 33 years old. I am a certified personal trainer. I'm a nutrition specialist all through the American Council on Exercise. It's one of the most reputable brands in the fitness industry. And why that's kind of important is in order for us to really know what we're talking about, you kind of need that piece of paper to say, hey, that we've been through the testing process and all that, because there's a lot of us in the market and not all of us know what we're doing. But that's not really why I'm here today, right? Today, I want to talk to you guys about how we define success. And the reason why I'm here to choose that topic is because it kind of correlates with life, business, fitness in particular, but they're all kind of intertwined and they go hand in hand. Before I dive too much into that, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about myself and why I believe that I'm kind of qualified to give you this message. You see, when I was a youth, I had a pretty tough time coming up. I was separated from my parents. They were in the system. I was in and out of foster care homes, and I ended up in a disciplinary boot camp, the kind that you see on Oprah. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all remember those, right? Nobody? This guy does? I know you do.
Yeah.
The point of all that is throughout life, things happen to us. These little tiny seeds get planted, in our genetics, our DNA, and in our mind, the things that will come out to harvest later. They're all the skills and tools that we're going to need to help us get through moments later down the road, right? So I look back at the time that I had growing up, and I often thought, I was like, what was the purpose of all that turmoil, right? Now I'm a father of two. I have my own home. I've owned my own business. I've owned two businesses. One didn't do so well. That's okay. I have a training company now. I run a successful gym. And if it hadn't been for all of those things that I went through, all those little tiny seeds that I picked up along the way that were planted that I would go on to harvest later, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so when we talk about success, what is our perception of our own success? How do we actually define it? I remember when I was 18 years old, I was supposed to have a private plane, right? Who else wanted to have a private plane? Anybody? John? Thank you. I appreciate your participation. I'll give you a cookie when we're done. You guys feel free to interact with me. That's what this is about. But no, if you think about it, when we're coming up and when we're younger, we have these ideas and visions of success. I'm going to be up here. I'm going to be king of the mountain, beating my chest. Well, here's the good news, guys. Take a look around the room. You're industry leaders. There's nobody else in your market or in your industry that's here beside you today. So when you step inside these four walls, you represent that entire industry. So if I never learned anything else about plumbing, you're the face of plumbing to me. That's pretty neat, right? It's a cool way to think about it. Automotive. You're the face of automotive. Period. Hey, I had a positive impression until he ruined it for you. But the point is we have to change the way that we define ourselves, right? So inside these four walls, we're industry leaders. When we leave here today, we're still those leaders in the industry. How do we do it? How do we handle it? How do we approach the very next situation that we're going to encounter? How do we handle the next client interaction, customer interaction? How do we handle the next sale, the next customer complaint? You see, we all have the tools of success. How many people here have been through something tough in their life?
Probably
It should be everybody, right? Life's freaking hard. It sucks sometimes. It does. But the good news is that every one of those crappy moments is a tool to get through to the next one. And then from the next one on. I promise you that. I'm here, living proof that it happens. And guess what? By your own admission, you guys are just as strong as me, if not stronger, because you're here today too. And you've all admitted already that you've been through something crazy, right? Truth, huh?
True.
So when we think about how we perceive our business and how we perceive our success, how do we define that? Is it the jet? Is it multi-millions in our bank account? Or is it the fact that I can pay my bills? I'm happy. Or is it the fact I can go home and hug my significant other, or hold hands, play a video game? Whatever that is, that vision of success is, that's up to you to define. It's not up to the world to define. Because I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys something right now. To be where you are today, you've already climbed the mountain. That's fair, right? You guys are all representing your own individual businesses. You're not part-time Joe. You're not like part-time Jeanette or whoever. You guys represent your entire company here today. And then when you go out there, you're going to do the same thing. You're the face of what they're going to see. They're going to see you, and that's their vision of that whole market. Right? That's pretty cool. That's a lot of responsibility too, isn't it? Right? It's something neat to think about, though. When we define ourselves in business, right? Like, I'm Jonathan Depew. I run Anytime Fitness in Daphne. I'm a certified personal trainer. What is my success? Truth be told, guys, I would love all the money in the world. That'd be awesome. It really would, to get my private jet that 16-year-old Jonathan wanted. But in actuality, my success isn't measured financially. It's just not. I chose an industry that's not real high in revenue, or at least at my level, it's not. But where my industry is refuels me, if you will, is the success that I have with my clients. Right? My stories don't come from me. My stories come from the 315-pound man that I met a year ago, who now weighs 245 pounds and has the courage to go out there and get back into the job market, because he became so depressed about his weight and the way that he thought the world perceived him that he couldn't go out there and get after it. Now he weighs 245 pounds. He's a completely different looking person, I'm sure, as you guys can imagine. But it's the confidence that we have, right? It's the struggle, the journey of this to get to here, to where we feel that we have the abilities to get out there and do those things. It's redefining our success. I have that conversation with him all the time, because he'll get frustrated. He's like, damn, I only lost 2 pounds this week. Buddy, you've lost 70, leading up to this moment. That's amazing. I mean, that's incredible. If you think about that, what makes fitness so great to me is that it's one of the few industries where it's us against us, me versus me. When I step inside of the gym or wherever I decide to go to become physically active, you can't stop me. You can't. You can't do it either. The only person who can stop me is me in that moment. And when you find yourself alone and it's you versus you, that's when you truly discover who you are. And that's how we begin to define our success. Right? When you can figure out a way to keep yourself motivated and active enough to achieve what you want to achieve in the goals, that's success. It's not in the pocketbook, even though that's great, right? It's not in the car that we drive or the house that we own. It's how you handle the challenging moments in your life that define your success. And I promise you that's actually the case, because if we were to sit back and evaluate where we are today, we may not have the things, the material things that we want, but I bet you guys that you have something in your lives that you fought for, that you worked for, that defines who you are today. Is that not accurate? Right? You run your own business. Did you ever think that you would have your own business? Maybe?
Yeah, I think I thought of it.
Right, but you have it now, don't you?
Yes.
That's a success story, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? Pretty cool. Myself included, right? I've run a company, and it didn't work out. You know what? I could have crawled into a hole and let depression rule, but I didn't. I was like, you know what? I learned something here. This is how I should not do business the next time. And so the next time when I open my own company, Depew Fitness, I've been much more successful. When I've run Anytime Fitness, I've used the skills that I learned when I failed to make that a better company, right? And again, it wasn't me versus the world or anything like that. It was me versus me. How can I take this moment of failure or this moment of triumph or struggle and use it to my benefit to define my success? Because think about this, right? And I had a great conversation with a friend the other day. She was upset because she wasn't making enough money. She didn't have this, and her husband and her were fighting. Cool. And I pulled her back and I was like, I want you to think about the things that you have in your life now that you should be celebrating. 2 beautiful children, young boys, very strong, very smart, very sweet kids, right? You have your, all your cars are paid for, house note, dog, all those things that we take it for granted every day. Those are successful things, man. I guarantee you there's people out there that you're going to pass that aren't even close to where we are today, right? That's a true statement. I mean, we can look at all the hurricane damage that we've seen, the earthquakes that we've seen. We've got it pretty lucky. I mean, we really, truly do. We're very fortunate. But it's because of the hard work and a little bit of luck that we are here where we are. That's fair, isn't it? So when you take those moments, those little tiny triumphs, how do you react? What are some of the things that you guys think about when you're in that moment and you're trying to figure out if you can get through? Anybody? Fantastic. I don't know what to do. That's okay. You'll figure it out. No, the best thing that we can do when we have those struggling moments, those moments that feel like we can't get through, we look at where we've been, right? We close our eyes, we take a deep breath, and in that moment, is it really any different from something else that we've already experienced? The answer is usually going to be no. Now, the colors may be different, the shapes may be different, but in the end, it's not any different. And it's the truth. Now, there's some outstanding circumstances, of course. But let's say if my car breaks down on the way to work, I'm pretty sure that we've all been through that, right? Is that something to curse the gods and the earth for? Dude, that's life. That happens. Guess what? Maybe because your car broke down, you don't get in an accident on the way, right? You know, if we change our perception of the events around us, I guarantee you it's not as bad as you think it is. There's a book that I love, and it's, man, I just blanked on the name. It's Seneca, Letters from a Stoic. And it talks about perception, a lot about perception, because if you think about it, perception in life is one of the best tools that we have, and it's also one of the crappiest things. Have anybody ever been a victim of perception?
Yeah.
Thank you for nodding along. I appreciate that. I'll tell you, with the full sleeve of tattoos, the personality that I have, and the lifestyle that I've chosen, I'm kidding, it's not a crazy lifestyle. I'm pretty humble and down to earth, but perception is pretty tough sometimes. Right? You look around the room and you're like, I don't like that guy because of this. I don't think that guy because of this. Well, this guy said that one thing, and it's that. On the opposite end of that coin, you have the ability to choose how things impact you. True story.
I like to use coin. That's good.
What's that? But we do. We have absolute control of how we feel. And it may not feel like it, but we do. When something happens, you have a split second. Is this a bad thing or a positive thing? Am I going to be angry or am I going to be happy about this? And I promise, if you take a deep breath and reflect in that brief second when something happens, you do. I fail at it all the time. Let me go ahead and tell you, I struggle with that moment, you know, when something bad happens, you know, because of the way I brought up or whatever. The first thing I want to do is scream at the heavens of, oh my God, my car broke down. Here's the good news. My car broke down last week. I got a brand new one Friday, right? That's a success story, right? Before, I don't think I'd ever have the ability to just to walk into a dealership, here, run my credit, I'll take that one. But had I not gone through those things growing up, those tough times, you know, maybe my car exploding or whatever happened would have been the end of the world, but it's not. It was a tiny little moment that had I been, you know, a couple minutes of reflection, I could have looked at differently. Because I'll tell you this, once I stopped and I let all that stress come down from having to get a new vehicle, and I stopped and I looked at it from a moment, I was like, dude, I was able to walk out and get a brand new car, that's a pretty cool thing, man. No stress, just walked in, done. Had I looked at it differently, damn, I had to buy a new car, now we have all this debt, and this, and this, and this, and this. Yeah, those things are there. At the end of the day, that's part of life, man. You know? It's how we perceive the events in our life that's going to dictate how we look at our success. And I promise you guys, you are successful. And it may not feel like it. You may be down here, but you are. You're here today. You've made it through the struggles of life. You've made it through all of the challenges in your professional and your personal lives to get to where we are today. This is all why I love the fitness industry. That's why I've chosen it to be my bread and butter. It's because in it, it's you against you. There's nothing else. It doesn't matter how work went. It doesn't matter what's going on at home. It doesn't matter about the car ride there. It's all that matters is what you can give in that moment. And that's what's going to define your success. Do you have the ability, when all crap is breaking loose, to take a stand and say, this is who I want to be? And that's, to me, is what fitness is all about. Right? And that, to me, is what life's all about. And success, business. Right? I mean, that's fair. You know, so when you guys go out there today and when you continue on throughout the week, I want you to think about those things. When you're faced with a difficult moment, a difficult client, a difficult guest, having to build a Mickey Mouse balloon arch, think about it. Man, how good do I have it? And how awesome is it to be able to do this thing? Because when I was back here, I never thought I'd even be at this. You guys have any questions, anything? Questions for me?
Yeah, how long have you been in Anytime Fitness?
I've been at Anytime Fitness for 4.5 years.
Okay. You owned it right out of the gate, or?
I'm sorry?
Did you own it out of the gate, or did you buy it?
No, I'm slowly working my way into that part of that. I came in as a part-timer. It was very much one of those situations where I was lifting weights, so I dropped the weight, and the pretty manager walked by, and I was like, hey, you guys need any help? And she's like, yeah. And I started off as a part-timer, and then I made a bid for management. Come about 2 months after that, they accepted my bid, and I've been running it ever since.
Where is it?
It's next to Lenny Subs and Marco's Pizza in Daphne off of 98 across from Colony Motors. I like how you guys were like, yeah, I think I know where that is.
I know exactly where that is.
Yeah, what you got,
Now,
man?
you want to talk about a frustration or a challenge. It took us 17 months. 17